And I think this is time now to hear. We will come back. We will come back for the last one, and that's when you are going to have that input. This is Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Adingor, and with us are Honorable Michael McQuinleth, Minister of Information, Communication Technology, and Postal Services, and representative of the I-Tigono, Honorable Angelina Tang, Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, and a prominent member of the SPLA-IO. Honorable Okello Odonto Lowiri Sawa, Representative Dr. Regina Richard, representative of the former detainees, Mr. Farouk Ismail, Programs Coordinator, South Sudan Law Society, and a representative of civil society. Thanks for those of you who have been watching or hearing us live on social media. We are speaking with the political parties about the peace agreement, the last 3 years, and the road ahead. And now is a chance to hear from a few members of the audience as time has gone by. We are going to come back for the last time. Can you put the mic out there? Anyone who would like to say something, please raise your hand. You say your name and association.
Thank you, Madingor. With what we have done in this forum today, I'm Honorable Wilson Lodiong Sebit from ANC OPP and a member of parliament now. I think let me begin by saying that in a work that is done in China in 2 days in South Sudan is 2 years. This is a saying in South Sudan, simply because of the difficulties we are seeing here. Sincerely speaking, I arise just to tell the audience here that it is all our making that we are not moving forward. One thing is we have already thrown away the matrix the way it was made for us, as people say. To me, for us to make this agreement move, we as signatories of the agreement must sit and hammer out some new matrix. 3 years have gone, and the matrix are already thrown out. How do you expect the citizens of South Sudan to believe that peace is already existing? Because they are not being informed. To me, I would suggest we as South Sudanese, as low as we are to have a conference for all the groups of the agreement, so that we really sit together and hammer out new matrix. And this matrix must be communicated throughout to the entire South Sudanese, including those in diaspora, and giving reasons why we are trying to extend it. Currently, we are still not moving. Even the South Sudanese don't know how the agreement is moving. And by us sitting together and we disseminate the policy, we have come up and tell the people that this is the situation we are in. Currently, we have nothing else other than saying we are graduating soon. How do we graduate forces when the unified command is not done? We were getting a report here yesterday, some few days back from Mati, that the forces from the SOA and the IO are more than, the generals are more than the non-commissioned officers. And we are talking about graduate. Who do we graduate if the command is not done? And we were told that these things are in the principle, in the presidency. What are the presidents really doing? I'm talking as a part of this government. Because we really want this country to move forward. We need to be very sincere and transparent in our doings. And we don't want to talk about anybody talking about opposition. We should talk about the unity of this country so that the South Sudanese can benefit. If we wanted to make things move, let us not have suspicion among ourselves. Lack of trust, this is one thing that is healing us. Somebody sitting next to somebody doesn't want to believe that man can do the job better than anybody. This is the lack of trust that is giving this country not moving. I must recognize whoever is doing the job efficiently and do it to the people, to the satisfaction of South Sudanese people. The international community are very skeptical because we don't trust ourselves. There are forces coming in, there are forces moving here and there. And we are not able to control the shifting of allegiances. And we are seeing as leaders. South Sudanese are not happy because of no trust and no what moving. Yes, Honorable Angelina made it clear that the executive was not supposed to be formed until when the army would have fight. She is correct. And actually, these leaders are living in God's mercy. We have fractions of army within our societies. You can be picked from your house anytime when you go. But South Sudan is with the people of South Sudan. God is with the people of South Sudan. In actual fact, the agreement from the 8 months, the unified forces are supposed to have been graduated before the government is formed. This is not happening. And everybody holds to his own positions. The other team is in the barracks, in the cantonment. The other teams outside. And I don't know whether the SSDV also have another team behind that will be going after that. Why are we?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. General Malak.
Thank you very much. I thought that I was coming here to be a listener, not to be a speaker. Because what you are discussing is connected with the parties, and I don't belong to any party. I am officer in the National Army. So I was listening and I was following exactly where are we agreeing and where are we disagreeing. The only point I can mention is what was said by my brother regarding where do we start the unification? Is it to start unifying the forces or unifying the command? Me as an officer in the army, nothing actually starts from up. Things start from down and they go up. Especially in the army, it is the number of soldiers which will determine the rank of the command. It is the number of soldiers. If they are 21 or if they are 30, the number will determine who is to command them. So unifying the command before unification of forces, all of us will be generals. And at the end of the day, there is no command. There is no soldiers to be command. So that's why we are saying, let us start with the ground and then we go up. So, and this is what is agreed. As you may listen tonight on the SSBC, I presented that issue. When the JDB, they met and they agree that they will start from the squad. Who can command the squad is this. Platoon, who can command the platoon? Who can command the company? And you go up. So we are trying to move, although it is not us, the army. We are being moved. It is not us moving by ourselves. It is the politician. It is the government. If there is a delay, why the army? Why forces are still in the unified training centers? It's not because of us, the army command or the Ministry of Defense. It is the government. That is what I can mention. Because if the government facilitated, then definitely things will move up. It is already made clear that from the beginning we violated the agreement. We violated the agreement. We did not collect again from those who were going to cantonment as stipulated in the agreement, and those guns were left to the civilian, and this is what civilian is using now against themselves. And even if we agree with the parties and our people are fighting themselves, where is peace in the country? There will be no peace. So that was number one. Why did we not do that? It was because we fear that if we subjected everybody coming to cantonment must bring that gun, people say that no, this will create problem and will actually may undermine the agreement. But a solution which will create a problem is not a solution. Two, the issue of screening. We did not screen the forces. Why? Because also we fear that if we screen the forces, almost 80% or 90% will be sent to DDR. And that will create another problem to the agreement. Issue of ranks is the same thing. So we try to solve those problems by creating problem which is facing us now today. And that's why now we are in crisis. though the forces in the training centers, majority of them have gone away. They have gone back either to cantonment or to the barracks. Then whom are we going to graduate? Now we are talking about graduating forces. Do we know how many there now in the training centers? We don't know. And this need us again, like now we are sending committees to the training centers. If you go to Gorom here now, there used to be more than 5,000. But if you go now, you don't get those numbers. If you go to Rajab, the same thing. So another thing is the issue of lack of screening is not really making those in the training centers to be really soldiers in the future. Because some of them are very old. Some of them are very disabled. And there are so many, I'm sorry to say this, many women who are pregnant in the training center. Where do you really bring pregnant women to be trained in the army? There are many women with the children. They come with their children, 5 children, 6 children. What is this? So our problem was actually we violated the agreement from the beginning, and that's why now we are unable to move because of that one. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm called Alfred Ganmai, a student, University of Juba. It's my pleasure to be part of this platform. I got the invitation. First of all, I will dive in like this. You know, the panelists been talking about the violation of the agreement, the obstacle, the impediment, and how we can go ahead. But I don't know whether the transfer, like, for instance, is it then the agreement that when we are still, like, the command or the army are not unified, is it allowed that one can just, like, for instance, go from one camp to another camp? Is it allowed? And can that kind of part of the agreement, can the party accommodate, say, people who are violating the agreement? Because I'm seeing, and we have seen it, there are people who are violating the agreement, and some parties within the agreement are accommodating, say, people who are violating the agreement. Why is it happening so? Again, there is a concern like this, because I have heard Honorable was talking about the issue of graduation was delayed because of the gun. Can the issue of the gun be the problem to the graduation of the forces? And if it is so, there is a person who is responsible for that soldier. Why don't they call those people to make sure the soldier bring their gun to the training center? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, all of you, Honorable Minister Michael Mkwendwe and Minister of Defense. I'm happy.
Your name?
My name is Jacob Nyal Jonkuch. My General Malaka Yuan, I want to take an opportunity just to say something. What I want to say is, Honorable Ministers, in this country, we are tired for fighting all the time. Despite the fact that all the policies people are talking about, I will not just go and touch anything there. I want to say we want peace, because I myself, I am a soldier. I've been fighting or fought a senseless war in this nation. But I have fought by constitution. I didn't have intention to fight anybody here in South Sudan, because I feel some pressures since 2013 up to this time. What we are just interested for, we want peace. That is what the other people or other Southerners want. Because just fighting for nothing is not right. Because we are one nation and one people.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My name is Garang Ayik. I'm a South Sudanese. I'm happy to be here today. Your Honor, Minister Michael McQuay, Your Honor, Minister Angelina Tench, and the Honor members. Thank you so much for this media conversation and the talk of peace dissemination. You know, the rule of evidence said silent means consent. If anybody go to law school, you get it silent mean consent. The South Sudanese, in general, wherever they are in this country, they are concerned of what is going on in this government, in this country, either at the state level, at the grassroots level, in the higher government level. Once, Bill Clinton once said, if you tithe for human potential, if you don't invest in new ideas in human, it doesn't cut off the person affected, but it hurts us all. If you don't invest the new ideas in person, it doesn't cut off only that person affected, but it hurts us all. All of us, we Sudanese, if we define ourselves to be more exclusive, it will hurt us all. Doesn't matter, either you are in the government, you are out of the government, you are discontent by the government. My question is, and direct to the Honorable Minister of Defense, the Kitgwang groups, the members of Kitgwangs, who were defined as members of the either IO and discontent by the process of the agreement. And they are not together now with the IO, according to the statement and how the South Sudanese read at them. If they are being given an offer by the government or the part of the government, do you have any question, or do you have to disagree with that? One, to the government, we are talking of the war and the arms. Whoever holds arms illegally in this country is against and is threat to the national security. Whoever holds arms in this country is against the national security of this country, despite who he is in this land of the South Sudan. So today, to those who are holding armed groups somewhere, do you have a plan to be inclusive, to bring them in, so that they can put down their ammunition and join the government? That's direct to the Honorable Minister of Information.
Thank you very much.
Yes, the first speaker said what is done in 2 days in China is done in 2 years in South Sudan. Yes, that is true. Because the Chinese are principled people, they have a guiding principle, and they abide by it. See? But for us here, we have different principles, and we don't abide by them. So the first thing is that we must develop a common principle around which we will be working. Otherwise, if we continue like this without coming up with a principle to guide us, then definitely we will not do so. We are working hard to come up with that law, the permanent constitution, even though there is nothing called permanent constitution. Constitution is a constitution and it is amendable. But if you say a permanent constitution, it means that it cannot be amended. See? So we are working hard to come up with the constitution that will be our guiding principle. That will guide us in our daily life. And in so doing, it is thereafter that we will not implement that in 2 years, but we can do it in 3 years, in 3 days. Because China, when they started the way in which we are now, when they started, they were in this situation in which we are now. And Mao Zedong came and organized them. It is thereafter that they abided by the principles and went on ahead. This is why they are implementing in 2 days. We'll do so when we reach that level. Yes, it is true we are far behind, and I agree with you. We need to come up with a new matrix, either to expedite it if we can, or we extend it if we are unable. But we need to come up with something clearer. Yes, the presidency should take lead on this. I agree with you. What Malak, yes, General, what you have said is to deter, yes. The ranks actually are determined by the military formations. It is, you start with a squad. A squad is, no, you start with a squad, yes. A squad is commanded by a corporal and a lance corporal. Then you go to a platoon. The platoon comprises of 3 squads. It is headed by a sergeant and an officer, the Burawai. And you continue like that, building up. It is where you end that the senior rank is determined. So, and this is what I have ever been saying, there is no way we can start with the command to determine with ranks at the command level at a time when we don't know the forces that they will be commanding. Because you need to know the forces before you determine the rank. But if you put the cart before the horse, you will find a Liwa commanding a platoon. So I quite agree with you, and this should be, if the JDB has so decided, done this, that is the correct decision. And I agree with you. Movement of forces from a unit to another is not desirable, and it is not right. But if you as a soldier, because after all, by taking up arms, you have taken up a political decision. And by taking that political decision, and you are not yet oriented, trained, and graduated to be a disciplined soldier, you will continue to be an indisciplined soldier. You continue to be a rebel. And if, while you are there, decided to abandon me and go to Angelina or to Madingo, it is your political decision. And if you decide to come to me or go to him, there is no reason for you for me to reject you if you have decided to come to me. Because what I want is peace. If I don't accept you, you may go to the bush and start shooting all of us, which is not desirable. Because if he is rejected by both, he will not accept to go back and have rejected him here, then he will prepare to stand on his own. And if he stands on his own, then definitely this is where problems are. Those who went to the cantonment sites and then to the training centers without arms are a problem. Because there is no way we can buy them arms. Even if we had the funds, there is no way we can buy them arms. And we cannot give them ijaza, gulam shifete silabatak badenam telgao, you come back with it. Cannot do that. But they are capable of sending for them. If they are really determined, they should have brought them. And if they are in need of them, then they should send for them. They will be brought. Even if the government is informed today that there are arms in this place, we want them brought so that we give them to the soldiers here to be graduated, they will be brought. But the problem is that we are told that there are no arms. And if there are no arms, then what do we do? Because the soldier who came without a rifle, if you ask him, he will say, I did not have a rifle. And a mistake have already been committed, so there is no way we can. Yes, our brother who had been talking of who needs peace, Jacob. We need peace. We need peace, all of us, you see. Nobody will ever tamper with peace. Nobody will ever attempt to say that he doesn't want peace. Everybody needs peace. But the problem is the mechanism and the procedures you follow, the approach, the route that you follow in the course of your peace. This is where people usually disagree. Even those who fight, none of them says, I don't want peace. But each of us wanted peace his own way. This is what brought about the conflict. Otherwise, there's nobody who is against peace. And I quite agree with you, we need peace. I think the other question was not mine. I think this was all. The last question is yours.
Thank you. There are some issues that have been raised here. I've been trying to avoid not to address them because I wanted to behave like what my comrade, Honorable Makwe, was saying, that one government. But I'm forced to have to say things. Let me start with the issue of the arms. You've noticed I did not even comment on the issue of the arms and the arms embargo. Let me talk about the embargo. The embargo is very clear. The UN Security Council has done two things. In the embargo, there is an article that gives an exemption. As a country, we can apply and put our reasons as to why we want to acquire arms. And it will be looked into. And if you convince them, you can acquire arms. We have not tried. Number two, the Security Council has done something else. It has given us benchmarks. You see, when they were reviewing the arms embargo in May, last May, they said instead of just blanket arms embargo, let's give them benchmarks. And let's see this benchmark. If they meet some of this benchmark, it will be the basis for us to remove the arms embargo. And I can tell you that we are working let me talk about the Ministry of Defense. We are working on some of those benchmarks. For example, issues to do with sexual violence against women, children in the armed forces. We have taken some very tangible steps. In fact, the UN is supporting us in addressing some of those issues. These are some of the benchmarks. One of the benchmarks is putting together a system of the management of the stockpile, which is the arms we have and the ammunition and so on. And it's something that also we put out there and we are discussing. But this has implications. Implication is infrastructure. Because when I give a soldier on duty a rifle with the ammunition, once that soldier is off of duty, they're supposed to leave that Vikarkon. But now they go home with the ammunition that we gave them and the rifle that we gave them. You're on duty, you're not on duty, you're responsible for that rifle. That's an issue. And it has been put by the UN Security Council as a benchmark. So we need to discuss the financial implications for creating that system. And this is for the government to do, and so on. So us always arguing that there is an arms embargo on us without us taking actions as to what would help remove the arms embargo doesn't help. You must couple your advocacy with some actions, especially when you've been given a benchmark, and so on. So that is to do with the arms embargo. I could talk more, but let me leave it there. let's come to the arms, the people who came to the training centers without arms. And actually from the speeches here, it's very clear that it was seen as a process of disarmament. And this is the thrust of the problem. When you have not even built confidence, already you can see intentions of destabilizing some of the partners within the peace agreement and so on. So you could see the reasoning behind some of these people who decided that I'm not taking my rifle because I'm going to be disarmed and I don't trust. I'm just putting it because earlier I've been trying to, not to go into the real problems. And these are the real problems. Now is evidence that there were reasons for such fears. You've seen what happened in Marota, Kajukeji area. It had happened in Eastern Upper Nile, Maiwood area. It had happened in many places. And now Kidguang. There are many invisible hands encouraging this. Zay mabgulu larab jawe kalbak weed back. Kidguang jawaum. Jawaum. Okay? Not everybody would follow. Some people would rather die hungry. This is another issue. I don't want to elaborate more, but these are issues of trust and issues that the parties within the agreement have to really tackle candidly and honestly. The issue of the ranking is a problem of all of us. In fact, our national army is you'd hear some other people calling it an army of generals. We have to deal with it in the SSPDF now, and actually in the policy documents that we are handling and addressing. We're discussing issues of exit strategies because all of our armies are top heavy. It's not only the opposition, it's a reality. They are top heavy. Is something that we need to address. And we need to address it, and it has an associated cost. So we need to, and these are part of the policies now that we're working on as mechanisms entrusted to develop policy. We must make an attractive exit strategy. Our soldiers are not being pensioned out. Since the liberation struggle, somebody will be taken assigned to do a political assignment. Once that political assignment is over, there's nowhere else to go, they come back. They are brought back into the organized forces. It has its own implications. Even we are unable even to develop a doctrine, because doctrine is a culture that is acquired within the organized forces as you move forward. عقيدة بياخد زمن عشان تبنيه. But now, people enter and exit into the organized forces as the situation demands. This we will end. We will not end it now, but we will end it with the transformation process that is being put in place, a roadmap that is being developed. That may take us up to 10 years to implement, and it will do with the exit strategies for those who have either the criteria. Let me say the criteria for you to be in the armed forces, a major general should not exceed the age of 65. Once you're 65, you're supposed to exit. Hasadain and Anas, we 70s. They have struggled. They have fought for this country, but you cannot just send them out of the army without proper arrangement. So these are the realities and the challenges of the security sector that we are facing. And maybe if we stepped out a little bit from our party skin and get into our national skin, we'll see that these problems are ours. They are ours, and we need to address them. And addressing them requires a unity in vision. What do we want to see? What do we want to see? How do we, this army, this police, this that we want to see? This is one area. Let me not lecture too much. I want to say about the unification of the command and the unification of the forces. Actually, the mechanisms have done a good job. This is a two-way approach. The teams that have gone to the training centers are required to organize those forces in that formation that was described. But as you graduate those, you must graduate them into a unified command. We have an architecture, which is the structure of the organized forces, the army, the police, and all the other organized security sector agencies. This top echelon doesn't change. You have in the army, we have a chief of defense forces, a deputy, we have assistant chiefs, and we have a number of directorates. They will not change by the size, with the size of the army. They will not change because this is now the architecture of the leadership or the top echelon of the organized forces. This is where you talk about unified command. You have the division. We're not going to change the 10 division. And we know which rank leads the division. Must be a major general. The people who are commanding divisions. That's not going to change with the size of the army and so on. So this is the command that we are talking about. This is the command that we are talking about. What is being suggested here is like when you say, take a new wine and putting it into an old wine skin. This is a unified force. It comes with the laws that are by the agreement, the processes that are described and prescribed by the agreement. So I must make the comment on the issue of the use of civic, let me say civic space and political space. You see, since we started the implementation of this agreement, that SSBC of ours, somebody will defect from IO, will be met by top leaderships. They will finish their meeting, they will come, they will insult the first vice president as they wish. Anything they think of under this earth. Just for 1 second, flip it. Those things that were being said about the first vice president, if they were said about the president on SSBC, do you think the person would get away with it? This is one. This is what I meant. The space, it is important, yes, to use it appropriately. But also censorship is a problem. What is appropriate? This is a decision for all of us. It's not just a decision for the Ministry of Information, Telecommunication, and Postal Services. It may be the lead ministry, but it's a concern of all of us because this is a government of parties. It's like we're running a coalition. You see, my experience in the UK, whenever there is something they call political parties broadcast. So the most time people watch TV is just before the news. People prepare and come and sit for the news. So they give each party on equal basis. Like today, it will be the Tories, the Conservative Party. They do their 10 minutes or 5 minutes political broadcast. They will make it. Tomorrow it will be Labour Party. The day after it will be the Liberal Party. Because BBC is a public broadcasting entity. It's not private. So every political party is given that equal space. You define it, and so on. And if somebody breaks the law, of course the law is there to be applied, and so on. But there's a very thin line between censorship and breaking the law here. And this is the point. This is the point I'm trying to make in that regard. Another important point: if we don't have differences of opinion, we will not be human. So differences of opinion can be expressed on TV, on state TVs, and so on and so forth. IO have their own different principles and values and their own way of. Same thing with SPLM, IG. Same with FDs and same with civil society. Everybody have their, these are called differences of opinion. They're not necessarily deadly disagreements. But we make them into deadly disagreement when we try to censor them. But if we discuss them openly, we allow the public to debate them, khalas, bintahi al-amr kida. But when you suppress, it brings a problem. For example, the action by the civil society. Personally, I regarded it as an action against the agreement and its implementation. But in my view, we should not prevent them to express it. They can express it if they are against the agreement. They decided that the agreement is not working. Let them express it. We will debate them and take them on amongst the public and say, you the people of South Sudan, we brought you this agreement. And this agreement, we believe, is the only way that will transit this country out of all its problems. Now you have a civil society that think that you should throw it to the bin. Is that what you want? And let's see. I believe nobody will come out to follow what the civil society was saying. But the minute you try to kind of suppress them down, the people would be curious. What are they talking about? Point. Thank you. Very, very important question. Of course, we all agree that the peace is what we want and is what we are going to work for. And it's not easy to work for peace. By the way, one of the issues with Kitgwang, because sometimes I think it's easier to shoot from afar. When you're fighting Besilah, you're not even seeing the person you're shooting. It's easier. Sitting like this and debating and discussing and implementing an agreement is tough. It's very difficult. It's very challenging. But it's the only way. We say hard things to ourselves, but we say it in the interest of ensuring that we move to that space whereby differences of opinion should not actually brew into violent disagreement and so on. So yes, your issue with Kitgwang, we wanted to talk to them. They didn't want to talk. You also know that we have given them very big position. They have abandoned that. So we're still in the interest of ensuring that this peace is implemented and that, they come and join the peace agreement, because as it is now, they are outside of it. Thank you.
For those who are joining us, you're on Fixing South Sudan show, and with us, Honorable Michael McQuinleth, Minister of Information, Communication Technology and Postal Services, and a representative of the ITGONU, Honorable Angelina Teng, Minister of Defense and Veteran Affairs, and representative of the SPLM, SPLA-IO, Honorable Okello Odongto Lowiri, representative of SAWA, Honorable Dr. Regina Richard, representative of the former detainees, Mr. Farouk Ismail, Programs Coordinator, South Sudan Law Society, and a representative of civil society. If you have just joined us, we are winding up with our discussion. We have been speaking about peace, dissemination, and many issues have been emerging. We don't have the whole day. And in fact, we have spent a lot of time. South Sudan cannot be fixed in one day. We have done our best, and we come to the end of the program. And let's just end by talking about dissemination, which is basically about spreading peace messages out there so that we have a country that is harmonious, that is at peace with itself. And I'm going to begin with the civil society. How do we make sure that South Sudan attains those goals of prosperity, stability? What messages should we put out there? Already the dialogue has been robust, and we are hearing issues of dissent which are not existential. They are issues that can be handled, and it's great that in a forum sponsored by the Ministry of Information, people can have such kind of candid discussion. Is already a proof that we are harmonious and we are on the same boat. And on my part, South Sudan is going to achieve peace at the end of the day. For the civil society, how can we get to that harmonious society? Oh, you are.
Thank you so much. I'll just be brief as our time is out of hand. One thing I would like to acknowledge is the civil societies have different views, and some of them are entitled to the opinion. As my two ministers have put it, some of us have been footing with you throughout the journey, and we promise we shall not deviate. We are always with you in this difficulty to make sure that peace comes and attained by all means, since the peace agreement is the only hope that we have at the moment at hand, and we must handle it with care. With peace dissemination, we already say that we need a well-functioning Artigonu to help us pass the message down to everyone who deserves to get to know, and that is none other than each and every South Sudanese. I like to give my assurance is that we have all the manpower, we have all the human resource that is ready to foot with you this journey, if utilized very well and given time to walk through this journey to our people down to the grassroots to see to it that the information is passed. What we emphasized here between Honorable Minister Michael McQuay and Mama Angelina is the free flow of information. Let's not be biased. Let the information flow. And this is the genesis or the beginning by the Ministry of Information to give us this platform. And this platform is commendable that it has to go beyond Juba and down even to we roll out to the counties through you, Madingor, and Terab Media. Let's engage, and let's engage. This is the only hope that we have, and let us join hands together. Let's see ourselves as South Sudanese and not at a partisan level, and let's join hands. With all the difficulties that we are facing at the moment, we have no option rather than implementing this peace agreement. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Regina, the dissemination is about people, it's about access to information. It is vital. The agreement speaks of ownership of the agreement. Why is it important to make sure that the messages of the agreement reach the entire society?
The dissemination of the agreement to our people in the grassroots, why is it important? Because what's written in agreement, it is concern them. It's not just only for the political parties. Let's say, especially for the security arrangement. When there is no unified forces, then we have many armed groups. Then people are fearing to come back to their areas. So they have to know what have been achieved in the agreement, what have been done, what have been implemented, what is remaining. So we have to tell them what is there so that also they raise their voice to help the signatory parties how to continue implementing the remaining of the agreement in time, and then respect also the time of, or considering the time of the of implementing of one of the agreement tasks.
Thank you. And the same question, Honorable Okello, peace dissemination is important to have a buy-in from the public, from the citizenry.
Thank you, Madingor, for bringing us together. We had been talking a lot. Now, as we go to the end of these programs, pertaining your question on sensitization or dissemination of the peace agreement. Basically, I want to talk about a very simple thing. We have seen how defensive sometimes parties to the agreement are. The writing is very clear on the wall. We are trying to defend issues. We are trying to create an environment that is not conducive for dissemination of this peace agreement. I basically wanted to say that the scope of rights of, to participation or to participate in political and public affairs must be, shared. Let us have, a clear platform, a platform that we can express, our interests. We can express our political views like this. Let us try to uplift or take away the censorship that we have on media or on individuals, parties. Because now, what I'm seeing is that the press conference that has been held by members of parliament that hails from Warab about the conduct of the governor has almost generated so many issues. So if we control the media in such a way that members of parliament are not allowed to express, their dissatisfaction over certain issues, they are not allowed to express their views, and then you want to take punitive action on them, there is, what are we doing? Is this country under democracy, or what kind of governance are we in? So it raises a lot of questions. Let us have a free and environment where we can express ourselves freely. A platform where an ordinary citizen down there in the grassroots will understand. I'm not sure if this peace agreement is being understood by the local South Sudanese, because it has not been expedited.
And your point is that let's begin in Juba and let's go to the grassroots.
Definitely.
Thank you.
We need to start here and then we get on the ground. And let us also open up the political spaces, because a lot of restriction is there now in place. Let us, let the government open up. If we are really truly a government of national unity. The way the Minister of Information is, has put on so many other things, sometimes raises questions. So let us open up the political space so that parties to the agreement can go on the ground, on the grassroots or on the states, in the states, to disseminate the peace agreement.
Thank you very much. And Honorable Angelina, we have to come back to dissemination because that is what has begun here. What is your take on how to best approach it and let it reach far and wide?
Thank you very much. This is actually already a process that we have to commend both the ministry and TERAP, because this is a good beginning. Now, after a long time, we have not had any discussions on the dissemination of the agreement. But I want to say that we have the Ministry of Peace Building. They're supposed to be the lead ministry in the dissemination of the agreement. And I think it's important to facilitate that ministry. All of us in government, we also, each individual institution has their role to disseminate the specific information that is regarding them. For us in the organized forces, and let me say in the armed forces, we have the obligation to actually make our members aware of what is in the agreement, what is happening with the agreement, the process where it has gone, and how far, and maybe also address some of the challenges so that we are all on the same boat, so that we are all also understanding the challenges, and that will reduce the blame and so on. Civil society has a big stake in implementation. We as a government, we have difficulties accessing funding from our traditional partners and so on. We have issues of trust that we need to address with our traditional partners. But the civil society can actually access funding from our traditional partners to also champion the dissemination of the agreement. And they can hoodwink the Ministry of Peace Building with them, you know, and even some of us, because through them there can be a conduit that would help the dissemination of the peace agreement. I have one important message. You see, there is a commitment to this peace agreement. This is one. Number two, peace is here. The question is, how do we sustain it? And this is why we're having these discussions, for us to sustain this peace. Once the peace is sustained, the government concentrates on, for example, building physical infrastructure. The rest, the citizens take care of. They come out of poverty if they are able to access markets. They come out of poverty if they are able to access the job market, and so on. Those would not necessarily be the work of the government. The government have to do the basic needs of building necessary infrastructures. It will facilitate, you know, the elevation of poverty and the rest of it. So this is what I can say. I can tell you genuinely that where we are at today, if anybody wants to take us back, that person will carry their own cross. Thank you.
Peace prevail, as he was asking.
Peace.
We need peace. Will it prevail at the end of the day?
Definitely, definitely. If we implement this agreement, and this is what we are working with, all the challenges, with all the difficulties that we are facing, there is a lot also happening that we cannot even talk about here, by way of creating that environment that will make peace prevail. Some of them are the laws that we talked about earlier. Some of them are the policies that we are touching on, and there's a lot happening.
Thank you very much. And to achieve durable peace, dissemination is the key ingredient in the agreement. And the Honorable Minister, how do we approach this, and how do we make sure that there is a buy-in from the people of South Sudan on the agreement?
Thank you very much, Mading and your Terap media. In fact, this is the first session for us to hold for the dissemination of the agreement, even though the agreement was very clear when we signed it. The civil society was anxious by then and determined to disseminate the agreement. And through it, they got a lot of funding from the international community. Instead of using that funding for the dissemination of peace, they use it for fighting the government. This is why their funding stopped. But if they were to use it as came in the agreement, they would have continued to be funded. The first body that was supposed to disseminate is the civil society. Civil society organizations. Two, the other body which is supposed to disseminate the agreement after the establishment of the government of national unity is the Ministry of Peace Building. It's supposed to build peace. And it's through this dissemination that they will be in a position to build peace in South Sudan. The third body is the government. By the government, definitely it is the government media under the Ministry of Information. We are actually the last, but on finding that these bodies are not doing anything, we decided to pick it up and disseminate it as the government. And this is why we are holding this session today, and we'll continue to do it. We'll continue to do it all over. We'll move to the states and we'll move all over. Because at the end of the day, we realize that we have distributed thousands of copies of the agreement. Thousands of them. We have distributed them all over South Sudan. But people can take them, put them in their bags, and they sit over it. And when you ask him, do you have a document? Yes, I have it in my bag. They did not give themselves time to read it even. Those who read did not read the agreement. This is why we had to start dissemination. And for you, as media, the Arab Media House, you start the dissemination, you take them chapter by chapter. Don't approach them holistically. Take 2-3 chapters today, discuss them thoroughly, analyze them, make your own conclusions. Then you go to the other chapters. But when you approach it, like what we have done today, there are some chapters that we have not touched. We have not touched chapter 5 and chapter 6. We have not touched them. And this is simply because of the time. We did not have time. Because if we were to be given time, we would have been, maybe I would have been talking from then up to now. And if my other colleagues take over, then the day would have ended. So it is important that you divide up the approach. It should not be approached holistically. We are ready to disseminate. And we are ready to reach everybody. Every South Sudanese must be reached for him to know the agreement. Once he knows the agreement, once he understands it thoroughly, he will definitely come for our rescue. What is being said as to what is being demanded to open up political space? I don't know. This thing has no yardstick whereby you can measure it. And it is when you do A, B, C, D, then there is a political space. Because it is a question of fact. Each and everyone has the right to determine as to how far have you gone in terms of creation of the necessary political space for any party to say or to talk. People have been talking of lack of political space. I think South Sudan is one of the countries where the freedom of expression and freedom of press are the best. The laws of South Sudan are the best so far. Go to our neighbors here, all of them. Go to our neighbors, all of them. See their laws. How do they operate? And by the way, I need to be frank here. By the way we understood democracy, democracy is an elastic terminology that you can define the way you want. That is one. Freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of all these things are there, provided that you don't step on the toes of others. Because when it is not absolute. The law says you are free to, if there is freedom of speech, there is freedom of expression, but nevertheless, there are limitations. And these limitations are what? You should not step on the toes of others. If you step on the toes of others, you will be held answerable for your deed or for your words. There are some actions that step on the toes of others, being the government or any other person. And when the government takes action, or that person takes action against that individual who is in conflict with the law, then people begin to say, the government is not democratic. The government is not is oppressive. These are things that are even happening, by the way, in the first world. They are all over in any country. There are freedoms, but these freedoms are controlled by laws. So whenever anybody is not allowed, you are not allowed for certain reasons. Because if you are allowed to talk anyhow and to step on everybody's toes and cause inconveniences and so forth, at the end of the day it will end up in a chaos. These are some of the issues that must be organized. So people, when you talk of freedom of expression, know that yes, the freedom of expression is there, but according to the law. According to the law. That is what we are after. So people should not expect people to say, Kalas, you are free, and as such, it is absolute. There is nothing absolute in this world, by the way. There is nothing absolute. Everything is controlled and managed by law. So, so far, up to now, we have moved very well. And from now onwards, we will continue to explain to the people of South Sudan the agreement. Another approach, and my advice also to the people of South Sudan, or to the would-be participants, is to avoid this confrontational attitude. We are not here, we did not come here to confront ourselves, but we came here to state facts as they are. We came here to tell the people of South Sudan, this is the agreement, this is how far we have gone, this is what is facing us. We want you to come with us here so that we resolve this obstacle. This is all that we are after. Thank you very much, and thank all the audience for their attendance and participation. And I hope that next time we'll approach it in a better way and with a clear understanding of the issues. Thank you very much.
With us have been Honorable Michael McQuinlewet, Honorable Angelina Tang, Honorable Okello Odongto, Honorable Dr. Regina Richard, Honorable Farouk Ismail, and thanks to all of you, our studio audience, and those who have been watching us live on Terap Media, Facebook. Thanks to all of you, and that brings us to the end of our